Ladies and gentlemen, let's cut the fluff and face something ugly. Is Hitler that monster the ultimate salesman? Yes. Not because he was right, but because he sold the wrong so well. Let's not be naive. The man didn't sell a vacuum. He sold hate. He sold destruction. He sold the worst idea in human history, and millions bought it with blood. Why? Because he understood people. He understood emotion. He didn't ask, he commanded. He didn't suggest, he converted. He tapped into fear. He pointed fingers. He gave people a story where they were the victims and someone else was to blame. And here's the harsh truth. People ate it up. Why? Because people don't buy truth, they buy certainty, and if you think that's only true for dictators, you're fooling yourself. Now here's where it hits you. You've got dreams, goals, a life you say you want. But what's stopping you? Negative feelings. I'm not good enough. What if I fail? They'll laugh at me. Boo. Who? You think your feelings matter? Hitler didn't wait until the world approved of him. He created a movement on pure force of will, again not morally, but mentally. He bulldozed over hesitation, and you can't even post your product on Instagram without second guessing your caption. The reason you're stuck is simple. You're selling yourself weakness every day, and worse, you're buying it. Here's the antidote: certainty. You don't need to feel good to move. You need to decide, then act like your life depends on it, because it does. Negative emotions are not facts. They are mental parasites. Kill them. Stop negotiating with fear. Dominate it. You don't need motivation. You need a mission. You don't need therapy right now. You need action. Because the world doesn't pay people who feel right. It pays people who get it done. So here's your homework. Kill the coward in your head. Sell yourself on your own greatness with the same certainty dictators sold nightmares. Not for evil, for evolution, because if evil can be sold at scale, then so can excellence. Sell that. When people hear the name Hitler, the first and rightful reaction is disgust, horror, condemnation. And that's exactly how it should be. He was responsible for the most catastrophic moral failure of the 20th century, but we're not here to talk about his ethics. We're not here to play history teacher or cry about the past. We're here to rip open the uncomfortable truth that no one wants to touch. Adolf Hitler was one of the most effective salesmen the world has ever seen. And if that makes you squirm, good. Sit with it. Because ignoring it doesn't make it go away. That level of persuasive dominance, no matter how twisted, has lessons buried in it, and only the bold are willing to study what made him so damn effective. Hitler didn't just sell a product. He didn't pitch a phone, a course, a lifestyle. He sold an idea, a poisonous, grotesque, impossible idea. And he sold it so well, an entire nation followed him like sheep to the slaughter. Millions didn't just believe him. They worshipped him, they died for him, they killed for him, not because they were all evil people, but because he made them feel like what he was offering was right. He didn't persuade minds, he hijacked hearts, and that's the brutal truth about sales, influence, and leadership. It's not about facts, it's not about logic, it's not about what's real, it's about what people feel is real. Hitler understood something that 99% of modern motivational gurus still haven't grasped, that emotion trumps information every damn time. You can wave all the data you want in someone's face, but if it doesn't hit them in the gut, it's worthless. Hitler didn't have better arguments, he had better energy, he sold identity, he sold belonging, he sold victimhood wrapped in the promise of revenge. He didn't say, hey, here's a 5-point economic plan to fix Germany. No. He said, you're suffering, you've been humiliated, it's their fault, and I'm the only one who's got the balls to fix it. He positioned himself as the savior, the only voice that dared to say what everyone else was too scared to say. That's not just sales, that's psychological warfare. Now here's what separates the amateurs from the killers in the room: the ability to study strategy without adopting the morality. Weak people hear the name Hitler and shut down. Winners analyze the playbook. The power is in the method, not the message. If you're building anything in this world, business, brand, movement, You better understand how he turned a defeated, demoralized, post-WWI nation into a machine of blind devotion. He didn't do it with money. He didn't do it with force, not at first. He did it with words. He did it with vision. He did it with repetition, intensity, certainty. You think sales is about smiling and being nice. You think leadership is about being liked. Hitler was not liked. He was believed, and belief crushes likability any day of the week. When he spoke, people leaned forward, not because he was calm and charismatic, but because he was possessed. He didn't speak from his throat. He roared from his gut, and that resonance, that conviction, is what moved people to madness. Let's be very clear. Persuasion at that level requires absolute internal alignment. You can't fake that kind of certainty. You have to become the message. Every cell of your body has to scream what your mouth is saying. When Hitler spoke, he wasn't thinking about optics. He embodied the movement. And when you embody your vision, people stop analyzing you. They follow you. That's what makes him so dangerous and so instructive. He didn't ask for permission. He seized the stage. He didn't speak to the intellect. He spoke to the rage, to the shame, to the pain. He made people feel seen in their suffering and powerful in their victimhood. He told them it wasn't their fault. He gave them a villain, and then he offered himself as the hero. That's manipulation. That's narrative domination. That's elite-level psychological selling. Most entrepreneurs can't even convince themselves to stick to a routine. This guy convinced millions to suspend morality, logic, and humanity in favor of an ideology that turned them into animals. You want to sell, you want to build something massive, then stop pretending that facts are what drive people. They don't, they never have. People follow energy, people follow movement. People follow whoever shouts loud enough with enough conviction to make them believe that their inner world is being understood. That's what Hitler did. That's what every master manipulator in history has done. The morality of their message doesn't matter in the study. The power of their influence does. And here's the next truth you're probably not ready to admit. You already use these tactics every time you tell someone what they want to hear. Every time you avoid truth to maintain comfort, every time you post a filtered version of your life to sell yourself as figured out, you're selling illusions. We all do it. The only difference is scale. Hitler did it globally. Most people can't even do it convincingly on their own LinkedIn profile. Why? Because they lack commitment, they lack inner fire, they lack belief. The scary part, he failed before he succeeded. Multiple times rejected, mocked, imprisoned, bankrupt, he didn't crawl into a corner. He doubled down. He used rejection as fuel. He didn't say, maybe I'm wrong. He said, they're too blind to see it yet. That's not just arrogance. That's strategy. That's the mindset of someone who refuses to lose, and that mindset, divorced from morality, is a nuclear weapon in business and persuasion. Most of you can't even handle a bad comment on social media without spiraling. Hitler was getting bricks thrown at him in beer halls, and he kept going. He mastered the art of speech, of symbolism, of rallying energy. He wrote his own mythology. He was the brand. He created a cult of personality so strong it survived a war, a fall, and still echoes in fringe lunatics to this day. That is legacy-level persuasion, even if it was used for horror. You don't get that kind of influence by accident. That's not luck. That's not charisma. That's engineering, deliberate, brutal, disciplined engineering of public perception. He crafted language like a weapon. Every word was calculated, every pause, every salute, every flag, all part of a system of control, belief, and blind allegiance. People walk around thinking the world is run by logic, that truth wins, that reason is enough, and that if you show people the facts, they'll wake up, change their minds, and act better. That's the myth average people live in. That's the story you've been sold since school. But look around. If logic really ruled the world, nobody would be obese, nobody would be broke, nobody would smoke cigarettes. You'd never see someone trapped in a toxic relationship, chasing a dead-end job, or destroying their life one small decision at a time, because logically they know better, but logic doesn't run the show. Emotion does. You don't buy with your brain, you buy with your feelings, you justify it with logic after. That's the human condition. First comes impulse, then comes the excuse to defend it. And the most dangerous salesmen in history, the ones who shaped nations and movements and wars, understood that long before the psychologists ever published their little studies. Hitler didn't need data. He didn't need research papers. He didn't need debates. He didn't need facts to sell. He needed fire. He needed anger. He needed pain. He knew if he could make people feel something, anything, he could bypass all their rationality and get straight to their actions. Hitler played emotion like a symphony, not the gentle kind either, the thunderous, terrifying, heart-pounding kind that makes people sweat, cry, scream, march, kill. He knew exactly what buttons to push: humiliation, shame, fear, betrayal, hopelessness. Germany was on its knees after World War I. Their economy was wrecked. National pride was crushed. People were angry, but they didn't know where to point that anger. So what did Hitler do? He gave them a target. He gave them a villain. He took that swirling, unfocused rage and he aimed it. That's emotional leverage. That's emotional engineering. That's psychological warfare. He made people feel understood, not intellectually, emotionally. And that's the gateway to persuasion. When people feel like you get them, they lower their defenses. When they believe you understand their pain, they trust you. That trust gives you power. Not because they've tested your credentials or analyzed your policies, but because you've entered their inner world. And once you're inside someone's emotional space, you can do anything. You can guide them, deceive them, uplift them, or destroy them. It doesn't matter how evil or noble your message is. If you get past their rational filter, you control the outcome. You ever wonder how some cult leaders convince people to give up their families, their money, their bodies, even their lives? It's not because the doctrine makes sense. It's because the doctrine feels right. It gives them comfort. It gives them certainty. It fills the emotional void. That's the currency of influence, and Hitler was a master banker of that currency. He took a wounded, pride-shattered people and told them they weren't weak. They were betrayed, that their suffering wasn't random. It was caused, that their misery wasn't deserved. It was inflicted. That's not logic. That's not reason, that's pure emotional framing. That's how you turn a victim into a weapon, and that's exactly what he did. He took the everyday frustration of the average German and wrapped it in meaning. He gave them a story. He gave them a purpose. It was toxic, genocidal, and evil to the core. But the mechanism he used is the same one used by every powerful movement in history, and that's where the lesson hits hardest. You don't need truth to win. You don't need to be right. You need to be believed, and belief doesn't start in the mind, it starts in the gut. That's where fear lives, that's where desire lives, that's where hate and hope and love all live. And those feelings are stronger than any fact you can throw at them. People will die for a feeling, people will kill for a feeling, people will ignore mountains of evidence if the lie makes them feel safer than the truth. If you think that doesn't apply to you, you're blind. You do it every day. You tell yourself you'll start your business next month because you're not ready yet. That's a feeling, not a fact. You stay in a job you hate because it's safe. That's fear masquerading as logic. You buy crap you don't need to feel important, connected, relevant. Then you justify it with some mental gymnastics. That's not reason. That's emotional damage wrapped in consumer packaging. And if you don't understand that about yourself, how can you hope to influence anyone else? This is why most people fail in leadership, in sales, in branding. They try to argue, they try to persuade with bullet points and benefits, they try to be clever, be polite, be logical. They don't get it. You're not selling an idea, you're selling a feeling about the idea. If you can make someone feel hope, you can sell them a future. If you can make someone feel fear, you can sell them protection. If you can make someone feel angry, you can sell them revenge. And if you can make them feel like they belong, you can sell them anything. Hitler didn't have to prove anything. He made people feel seen. He made them feel powerful. He took their deepest insecurities and turned them into a badge of honor. That's identity manipulation at scale, and it works even today. Watch any political rally, watch any influencer with a rabid following. You'll see the same formula. They don't understand you. You've been lied to. We're in this together. This is your tribe. That's not new. That's old magic. That's emotional seduction wrapped in modern branding. You think you're above it. You're not. No one is. Even the most rational people are just emotional creatures with fancy vocabulary. Every time you make a decision, your emotions are in the driver's seat. Your brain is just holding the GPS, trying to sound smart. That's why you regret things later. That's why you say, I knew better. But you still didn't act better. Because the knowing wasn't enough to override the feeling, and unless you learn to identify, harness, and direct emotion, your own and others, you'll keep losing to those who can. That's what Hitler did. He didn't defeat reason, he bypassed it. He went straight for the soul. He didn't ask for agreement. He triggered belief, and once you believe something deeply enough, you'll twist logic to protect it. You'll find reasons to stay wrong. You'll attack anyone who challenges you. That's not stupidity. That's emotional self-preservation. It's primal, it's powerful, and it's what drives mass behavior. Negative feelings are the silent assassins of potential. They don't walk in with a gun and shout. They don't punch you in the face. They creep. They whisper. They sit at the back of your mind like a rotting parasite, convincing you to slow down, play small, hesitate, doubt, delay. You don't even notice them at first. That's their brilliance. They wear the mask of being careful, of being realistic, of protecting you from failure. But in truth, these negative emotions are the chains you voluntarily wear around your neck, thinking they're armor. Before you ever fail in public, you've already failed in private. Inside your head, long before the deal falls through, long before the launch flops, long before your ambition crashes, there's a whisper. What if this doesn't work? Who do you think you are? You're not ready. What will people say? That voice isn't external. That's you. That's the version of you that has been conditioned by school, by society, by family, by failure to stay safe, stay small, stay invisible. That voice is your inner coward, and for most people it's the one driving the bus. The hard truth is, most people are not held back by a lack of resources, connections, time, or intelligence. They are held back by how they feel. Not how the world treats them, not how their boss speaks to them, not how many doors are closed. It's their feelings, specifically the negative ones, that suffocate their drive and dull their edge. Fear of embarrassment, fear of being seen, fear of success. Yes, even success. Because success requires responsibility, visibility, or risk, and most people are terrified of that. You say you want to be great, but you flinch when it's time to speak up. You dream of freedom but panic when asked to lead. You have goals written in a journal you barely touch because your hands tremble with invisible guilt and self-doubt every time you think about taking a bold step. And the real kicker, you've trained yourself to believe those feelings are valid. You've turned them into facts. I feel nervous, so it must be dangerous. I feel insecure, so maybe I'm not qualified. I feel like quitting, so maybe this isn't my path. This is how weak people live. And most people live this way their entire life. They don't push through it, they surrender to it, but they call it self-awareness. They wrap their avoidance in emotional vocabulary to make it sound mature. They say things like, "I'm protecting my peace," or "I need more time to heal," or "I'm not aligned with this energy," instead of admitting what's really going on. They're scared of failing, scared of rejection, scared of being seen trying and not getting applause. So instead, they sabotage themselves quietly and call it intuition. They opt out and call it boundaries. You want the truth. Your feelings are not facts. They are chemical impulses based on past programming, and unless you take full command over them, they will rule your life, not in obvious ways, not with explosions, but with delays, with second guessing, with guilt over being ambitious, with procrastination masked as preparation. You'll find a million ways to explain why you're not moving, and every single one of them will be rooted in a feeling you refuse to confront. That's how fear wins, not with a bang, with silence. Every time you think about speaking on stage and your throat tightens, and you decide not to. Every time you write the first sentence of your book and delete it because it's not good enough. Every time you come up with an idea that excites you and then immediately say, "There are already too many people doing this." That's not strategy, that's self-betrayal, and you've done it so many times you've turned it into your personality. Now you just call yourself an overthinker. You say, "I'm not like other people, I just like to plan." No, you're afraid, and you've dressed your fear in the language of logic. If you don't take the scalpel and cut these negative feelings out by force, they'll keep running your life. They don't go away by waiting. They don't disappear with journaling and deep breathing. You don't overcome negative feelings with comfort. You overcome them with confrontation. You have to grab them by the throat and expose them. Drag them into the daylight, interrupt the pattern, disrupt the story you keep repeating to yourself. That story that says you're not ready, that you're too damaged, that it's not your time yet. Who told you that? Who gave you the right to disqualify yourself before the world even had a chance? You need to realize that no one else is coming to fix your mindset. No one is going to rescue you from the grip of your own hesitation. No mentor, no book, no affirmation will do it for you if you won't get aggressive with your own limitations. The people who win in life aren't the ones who feel confident every day. They're the ones who move forward even when they don't. They wake up with anxiety and still make the call. They go to the meeting even though they're terrified. They post the content even though their hands are shaking, and that's why they win, because they stopped waiting for their feelings to get in line. Negative emotions will never fully go away. You will never be free from fear. You will never reach a point where you don't feel resistance. The difference is whether you bow to it or break it, whether you let it stall you or use it as fuel. Because the people who dominate, who actually change the game, are not fearless. They're ruthless with their fear. They recognize it, they feel it, and then they move anyway. You have to understand the cost of staying attached to negative feelings. Every time you honor that fear instead of overriding it, you reinforce it. Every time you let hesitation win, you teach your mind that it's in charge. You reward the behavior, and it grows. You're conditioning yourself in real time to be smaller, to shrink, and the longer you do it, the harder it becomes to break. You don't just become stuck. You become addicted to being stuck. It starts to feel normal, comfortable, familiar, and then you wake up one day and wonder how 10 years passed and you're still in the same place. And the answer is simple. You mistook emotion for instruction. Your brain throws a wave of fear and you think it means stop. Your stomach twists and you think it means this isn't right. You feel exposed and think it means this isn't for me. No. Those feelings aren't signs. They're signals, and signals are just data, not destiny. You don't obey them. You observe them. You override them. You feel them and you act in spite of them. That's the difference between being ruled and being ruthless. Between being a prisoner of your psychology or the architect of it. Negative feelings don't care about your dreams. They don't care about your talent. They don't care about your potential. Their job is survival. Your job is domination. Certainty is the most powerful sales tool on the planet. Not skill, not charm, not credentials, not intelligence. Certainty. People don't follow truth. They follow confidence. They follow the person who seems to know exactly what the hell they're doing, even if they're completely wrong. That's the brutal reality of how the world works. If you walk into a room stuttering, second, guessing, looking for approval, people will ignore you. But if you walk in like you own it, like every word out of your mouth is law, they will listen, even if everything you say is delusional. That's not just psychology, that's human nature, and if you want proof, look no further than Adolf Hitler. The man was dead wrong about everything. His ideology was toxic, his values twisted, his world a nightmare, but he spoke with such conviction that entire crowds stood in silence, mesmerized. He didn't just talk, he commanded. Every word landed like a punch. Every phrase was delivered like it was prophecy. He never apologized, never hesitated, never begged for agreement. He declared, and the masses followed, not because what he said was right, but because he sounded right. That's the key most people miss. People are not logical creatures. They are emotional, tribal, and lazy when it comes to critical thinking. They don't do research. They don't fact-check. They feel your energy and make a decision in seconds. They ask themselves one question: does this person seem like they know what they're talking about? If the answer is yes, they trust you. If the answer is no, you're invisible. It doesn't matter how qualified you are, how good your ideas are, or how valuable your offer is. If you don't sell it with certainty, it dies in the room. Most people are addicted to hesitation. They dilute their speech with words like maybe, I think, in my opinion, I'm not an expert, but... They're always walking on eggshells, hoping not to offend anyone, hoping to be accepted. And in doing so, they kill their influence. No one follows uncertainty. No one invests in doubt. No one buys from a shaky hand. Certainty is magnetic. When you project absolute belief in what you're saying, people feel it. They lean in. They trust. They obey. Even if deep down they're unsure why. You want to know why so many talented people are broke, invisible, unheard? Because they wait for certainty to come from outside. They wait for permission, applause, validation. They think once they have enough results, then they'll believe in themselves. But that's not how it works. Certainty doesn't come from evidence. It creates evidence. You believe first, and then you perform. You decide to be the expert before the world calls you one. You speak with authority before you have the accolades to back it up. That's how leaders are made. Look around at the world. The people on top aren't always the smartest. They're not always the most qualified, but they own the room. They speak with finality. They act like their vision is inevitable. They move like the future belongs to them, and because they move that way, others start to believe it too. Confidence is contagious. Certainty spreads. When you fully embody your message, people stop questioning it. They start repeating it. Most people don't even realize they're selling uncertainty. Their tone, their posture, their hesitation. It all screams doubt. They pitch their product like it might help. They talk about their business like it could work. They describe their goals like they're hoping it goes well. That's the language of losers. You think investors bet on people who hope. You think clients hire people who are trying. You think leaders follow someone who's still figuring it out. Of course not. They follow the one who says, this is what's happening, get in or get out. You need to understand that certainty is not arrogance. It's not pretending to know everything. It's being unshakable in what you do know. It's saying, I don't know everything, but I know this path leads somewhere, and I'm walking it whether you come with me or not. That energy alone separates you from 90% of people, because most are still waiting for someone else to lead. You become the lighthouse. You become the one people look to when they're lost. This is why some of the most dangerous people in history have been the most persuasive. Not because of what they believed, but how strongly they believed it. They created certainty in the minds of others because their own certainty was untouchable. Hitler didn't come into power through logic or open debate. He came into power because he projected such overwhelming conviction that people surrendered their critical thinking. They were swept up in the force of belief. It didn't matter that it was evil. It felt right because it was delivered with unwavering certainty. Now ask yourself, how often do you speak with that level of conviction? How often do you walk into a room and own it? How often do you express your vision without disclaimers, without watering it down, without apologizing for dreaming too big? Because that's what separates the average from the elite. Not knowledge, not talent, not luck, just sheer certainty. And here's the best part. Certainty can be trained. You don't have to be born with it. You build it like a muscle. Every time you take action despite doubt, it grows. Every time you speak up when it's uncomfortable, it strengthens. Every time you move forward without needing external validation, it compounds. You don't wait for confidence to show up. You act your way into it. That's what the greats do. They don't ask if they're good enough. They decide they are, and then they prove it through execution. Certainty is a choice. It's a daily decision to bet on yourself, even when no one else will. It's standing firm in the face of criticism. It's speaking your truth with volume, clarity, and power, because you know what you're about, and the more you do it, the less resistance you face. Not because the world gets easier, but because you get louder. You get stronger. You get so damn clear that even your enemies hesitate to challenge you. That's the level you want to reach. So stop selling uncertainty. Stop asking for agreement. Stop pitching your dreams like they're suggestions. Start declaring. Start owning. Start speaking like your words bend reality. Because in a world full of noise, the one who speaks with unwavering certainty doesn't just get heard. They get followed. They get believed. They get chosen, and that power, once earned, changes everything. Rewiring yourself isn't a motivational quote. It's not a vision board, it's not breathwork, and it's not pretending your trauma is healed because you sat in a circle and talked about your childhood. Rewiring yourself is war. It's the process of deconstructing every programmed belief that's keeping you average and rebuilding a system that makes domination natural. You are not born disciplined. You are not born fearless. You are not born confident. You are programmed from birth by your parents, your teachers, your culture, your failures, your heartbreaks. Every voice you ever heard, you're not good enough, you're too much, be realistic. Tone it down has become a part of your wiring, whether you like it or not, and that wiring controls your reactions, not your conscious mind, your program. That's why you say things like, I don't know why I do this, or I always sabotage myself, or I can't help but feel this way. Yes, you can help it. You just haven't rewired yourself. You're still running on a broken system. You're expecting new outcomes from old software. You can journal all day, listen to podcasts, attend seminars, but if you don't reprogram your inner operating system, you'll keep falling back to the same baseline. That's why you make temporary progress and then crash. Because you've built new goals on top of old wiring. Rewiring starts with one truth. You have to kill the old version of you. That soft, scared, fragile version that gets offended by criticism, that needs external validation to move, that overthinks every decision, that constantly fears being seen, judged, or disliked. That version needs to be starved. You can't negotiate with it. You can't keep it alive and try to evolve at the same time. That's what most people try to do. They try to upgrade while holding on to the parts of themselves that are rooted in weakness. That's why nothing sticks. You can't carry self-doubt into the next level and expect to thrive. The higher you climb, the more merciless you have to be with your own excuses. You weren't born thinking you're not enough. You learned that. You weren't born afraid to take risks. You learned that. You weren't born caring what strangers on the internet think of you. You learned that, and what is learned can be unlearned. But unlearning isn't soft work. It's not passive. It's brutal. It's looking in the mirror and confronting every lie you've ever told yourself. It's admitting that the reason you're stuck isn't because life is unfair. It's because you're still choosing the easy route. You're still protecting your old patterns because they feel safe. Rewiring yourself means rejecting safety. It means choosing discomfort on purpose. It means doing the exact opposite of what your emotions are telling you to do. Your emotions say, don't speak up, you'll sound stupid. You speak louder. Your emotions say, don't post that, people will judge you. You post it anyway. Your emotions say, take a break, you've earned it. You work harder. That's rewiring. Every time you override your default programming, you weaken it. And every time you submit to it, you strengthen it. It's that binary, that simple, that ruthless. The people who win are not the most talented. They're not the most privileged. They're not the most emotionally stable. They are the most rewired. They've trained themselves to respond to adversity with aggression, not avoidance. They've conditioned themselves to act decisively when most people are still waiting for the right moment. They've learned to extract fuel from pain, from rejection, from failure, because they rewired their associations. Where most people associate pain with danger, they associate pain with growth. Where most people associate fear with paralysis, they associate fear with direction, a signal to move toward it, not away, and that kind of mental architecture isn't built by accident. It's forged. It's earned through consistent psychological confrontation. You don't wake up one day and feel like a savage. You become one by attacking your inner weakness every single day until your brain stops identifying with it. And yes, it's painful. Rewiring means saying no to comfort, no to indulgence, no to mediocrity even when everyone around you is celebrating it. It means cutting out people who enable your softness. It means deleting apps that distract you. It means waking up earlier than you want to, not because it's trendy, because it hurts, and pain rewires. The brain is plastic, not in the sense of being fake, but in the sense that it can bend, it can adapt. It's not fixed. Neuroplasticity is real, but it doesn't come from wishful thinking. It comes from repetition, relentless, brutal repetition. You don't rewire yourself by doing the hard thing once. You do it every day until it becomes your new identity. Until people say you've changed and they're right, because the old you is dead, the overthinker dead, the procrastinator dead, the approval seeker gone, what's left is someone who moves no matter what. Someone who decides quickly, acts decisively, and recovers instantly. That version of you doesn't flinch. That version of you doesn't crumble under pressure. That version of you creates pressure. You will never get there by trying to feel better. You get there by becoming better. You get there by waking up every day and doing something that goes against your current wiring. You force yourself to be uncomfortable until discomfort feels normal. You act with confidence before your brain is convinced. You move with speed before you're ready. You speak truthfully even when your voice shakes. And you do it again and again and again until the neural pathways in your brain shift. Until the new version of you isn't an act anymore. It's automatic. This is not positive thinking. This is psychological warfare. You are at war with the version of yourself that's addicted to comfort. You are at war with your inner critic. You are at war with your patterns, and if you don't fight, you lose. Every day you don't rewire is a day you reinforce mediocrity. Every time you excuse your weakness, you harden it. Every time you say, this is just how I am, you make it harder to change, and you wonder why nothing's evolving. It's because your identity hasn't evolved. Your brain is still wired for the person you used to be, not the person you say you want to become. That's the real work, not the posts, not the quotes, not the grind set aesthetic, the rewiring, the slow, violent tearing apart of everything small, soft, scared, and sorry inside of you, and rebuilding a mind that moves, leads, creates, and dominates on command. A mind that doesn't negotiate with excuses, a mind that obeys purpose over emotion. That is what separates the few who lead from the many who watch, and it all starts the moment you stop identifying with your current wiring and start rebuilding the system from scratch.